Okay, if this is the ribs, the belly button, and your groin down here, if you had x-ray vision and could see underneath the ribs on the right hand side, you would see the liver. And the liver is your chemistry factory. It makes all kinds of different things, simple sugars, complex proteins. But it also makes bile, and the bile goes down these tubes called the bile ducts. And the bile ducts come down and form the main or common bile duct. Now, over here you have the esophagus bringing food to the stomach. And the stomach empties into the intestine. And the bile duct curls around and it empties into the intestine right there. And where it empties into the intestine, there's a little muscle that controls the flow of bile. So when you have food in your stomach and it's emptying into your intestine, this muscle is open so that the bile can drain in and mix with the food, and it helps you digest your food. It helps you dissolve food that normally would not dissolve very well in water. When your stomach is empty, the little muscle tightens up, closes, and bile doesn't drain out. Instead, it backs up into our storage reservoir that's stuck up underneath the liver here, which we call the gallbladder. When you eat your next meal, the little muscle opens up, the gallbladder squeezes and gets you extra bile. The gallbladder storing the bile, though, it concentrates it, it extracts water, so the bile in the gallbladder becomes quite concentrated, and that's why stones tend to form in the gallbladder. Stones start as little cholesterol crystals, which grow up over time to be gallstones. And you have a number of gallstones in your gallbladder. Now, what causes these attacks is when one of these stones is right there and your gallbladder tries to contract and it can't, and it hurts. And now, the area of concern that Dr. Saito was talking to you about, there was one area on the ultrasound where the wall of the gallbladder looked a little thickened, and the radiologist felt inclined to mention that. I looked at that. I'm not very concerned about that, honestly. I think with as much gallstone and stuff as you have in there, it's normal to have areas of thickening and irregularity. The gallbladder does need to be sent to the pathologist. We do need to be sure of that. But I don't think I would lose any sleep at this point worrying about gallbladder cancer. I think it's unlikely to be the case. We do need to check. It's even possible that if I'm wrong and gallbladder cancer was there, that after taking your gallbladder out, we might have to go back and take out a piece of your liver. But that would be, a chance of that's probably about less than 1 in 100. Okay? Now, what we do to get rid of the problem is we go in there and we clip off this connection, because the gallbladder is effectively not working well anyway. We clip off this connection, we take the whole gallbladder off the liver and just remove it in its entirety. So the bile duct's still there, the little muscle controlling the flow of bile is still there, you lose your storage reservoir. In the old days we would do that through a big incision like that, and you'd be in the hospital 3 or 4 days. Nowadays we do it through the laparoscope, which is 4 little poke holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same operation on the inside, just without the big incision, so we can do it as outpatient surgery. Go home the same day. As far as complications, it's pretty rare with this operation, but it can occur. There's a complication called a bile leak that occurs about 2% of the time. And that's where you go home and you're just having an unusual amount of pain, and what's happening is a little bit of bile is leaking, either where we clipped this off or where we took it off the liver. And if bile leaks, it's very irritating on the inside of the abdominal cavity.
Because it's bitter.
It is, all right. Fortunately, most bile leaks just stop on their own, but every now and then one will be severe enough that you have to go back in the hospital, and we have to get our gastroenterology friends to go in here with a scope. And what they would do then is they would put a little stent down here to take all the pressure out of the bile system and allow the leak to stop. So it's unusual to have another operation for a bile leak, but it sure is a nuisance if it happens to you. And then the dreaded complication is a bile duct injury. If we injure your main bile duct, that's very serious. We have to fix it. Even if it means a big operation, we have to fix that. The incidence of that nationally is about 0.3%. I've never actually done that to anybody, but that means 3 people in 1,000 nationwide have some kind of bile duct injury at the time of getting their gallbladder out. So all of this is not to scare you. This is one of the most common routine operations we do, and I think you need to get it done. You need to get it done really to avoid complications with your gallstones, to to avoid acute infection of your gallbladder, to avoid stones getting out here into your bile duct and making you sick. You need it done for all of those reasons. And oh, by the way, we need to make sure that little thickened place really isn't a cancer, which I doubt. So I don't think there's much question it needs to be done. It's not an emergency. It doesn't need to be done today, but it needs to be done, within the next month or so.